Preparing to live stream this meeting. Preparing to live stream this meeting. And now is the time when I have to turn off. Preparing to live stream this meeting. Okay, so now all of the weird noises should be off. Okay, so now all of the weird success should be off. Excellent. Success. And now it's off on my phone also. Thank you. Thank you, watchers, for your patience as I deal with the technology. And please join me in welcoming Gita Rash, the creator of the Mahabharata Oracle, which I first became aware of when Gita and I met at the first StaarCon or the second StaarCon? I can't remember.
The very first one.
Very first one. And I had the pleasure of being her moderator.
Right.
And asked if I could stay in touch afterwards. And she kindly said yes. So welcome. For folks who are not familiar with the Mahabharata Oracle, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the Mahabharata Oracle is like no other Oracle deck that I know of, since it's based on a story. And the story being the Mahabharata, which is the title of the story. And most people are familiar with Bhagavad Gita. They've heard of it. And that is just one chapter in this large, very large story. And it is the oldest and longest written document known to man. And it has a lot of wisdom that we can learn and apply to our own modern lives, which is what attracted me to the story. And so for a long time, I wanted to do something with it, but I didn't know what I could possibly do because so many things were already done. There's many Bollywood films, soap operas, dramas, TV shows, and so on. And I said, I want to do something that nobody has ever done. And the thought came to me many years later. And I said, of course, having been a tarot enthusiast for decades, I said, why not I make something with the story? And that's how the Mahabharata was created.
So I loved purchasing your deck because part of why one of the many things that I love about tarot is how it inspires me to learn new things and like keys into that. Oh yes, I was going like, that's been on my shelf to read for a really long time. Let's really do it. And the Mahabharata was actually one of those texts, although I did not have the copy. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I studied Wayan Kulit in Bali on a fellowship.
Mhm.
And so much of the stories in Balinese culture come from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. And so I was like, I should know more about this. And I never got around to reading it. And I got halfway through.
Wow,
And
that's
I'm not even sure, like, I found this copy of a Mahabharata, a modern retelling, at a local bookstore. And I'm not
Mhm.
even like, I kind of picked it up on a light whim, not knowing anything about the author Carol Satyamurthy. I hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. I apologize if I am
Oh,
not.
I do.
Um, and reading through before I purchased it, reading through the foreword and the intentionality of how like
Mhm.
the retelling was organized, like felt really right to me. um do you have opinions on texts that people can read if they want to go even deeper? Although I gotta say, like, the nuggets and the story that you chose for the the booklet that accompanies it are great.
Thank you. It was quite a challenge to choose from all those marvelous, numerous characters, and it was a tough job. You know,
How did you choose?
well, this may sound pretty crazy, but it's something magical happened because I had a hard time picking characters. And so I said, let me just take a deep breath and let the characters come to me.
Mm,
And so a few names popped off almost through like a divine download
yeah.
popped up. And then from those names, I worked further to make it more cohesive. So they blended together because from page 1 to page 1000, there's so many. And I didn't want the Oracle deck to be disconnected. So every character is connected with the other and the whole story flows. And that was my intention to make it more cohesive. So every character that's presented in the deck has some relation to the other.
Mm. So one of the things that I realized today, because I used your oracle to pull a couple cards for things to think about, and I pulled the trickster and the universe.
Okay.
And it was only in doing this that I realized that your universe oracle card, which is Krishna, is also 19 at the center of your oracle deck. And for people watching this who are familiar with tarot, as I presume most people watching this uh, are coming at this from a tarot perspective, will be more used to having the universe be at the end of the
Right.
story rather in the middle of the story. So what
Right.
was the intention there?
Well, Krishna is always the center of everything. If you were to study the history of Krishna,
Mhm.
consciousness, he represents the consciousness within everyone. And that is in your center, in your heart. And that is the essence of the position of Krishna. And if you
Mhm.
read some more texts, like the Srimad Bhagavatam and some other texts, Yoga Vishishta and all these other stories, you'll find that it's always about Krishna consciousness. And in the pantheon of deities, and there are thousands of them, it's the one person that they all talk about is Krishna, because it represents us,
Hmm.
the soul that resides in all of us. So it needs to be in the center.
Mm. Mm. That makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. How is it that you or do you use the Mahabharata oracle?
I actually use it as the way I created it, which was done by divine intervention. So I use it in all my readings as the final call. When I need to break the tie, or when I need to find the final answer, or to find a confirmation, sometimes I will do the reading and then pull the cards to say, hey, help me out here. Am I on the right track? And then pull the cards, and then they will confirm or not, whatever the case may be.
Yes, because just looking at the 2 cards that I pulled today, if the trickster was the final card of the reading, there'd be like, oh, what sorts of things might you be deluding yourself about? Can you really be careful of those enchanted dice? Where if
the trickster is also knowledge.
Mm.
The trickster also represents, because if you look at the number, it's the most powerful number. It's the most powerful master number, 33.
Really? Now, numerology is not my strong suit. Where does 33 being the most powerful number come from?
So 33 is the highest, it's the highest seat of all learning, knowledge, and information. So it is when you get tricked that you learn, correct?
Absolutely.
It's when you have a bad experience, it's when you learn and remember. And that is what the trickster wants to remind you, not just to get into trouble, but to remember the lesson that you've learned, which is really the core essence of the entire story, is to learn from the lessons in life. So I will be talking about this at the conference, actually. I'm doing that tarot numerology.
Oh, delightful.
Yeah. So I hope I have time to go over some of the master numbers, and it's on the plan, it's on the agenda. So I'm talking, spending some time with the master numbers.
So for those listening in who might not know, coming up this week is StaarCon live and in person, as well as virtually down in Florida. And Gita, you're going to be presenting again live, or?
Yes, I'm going live this year.
Fantastic.
I'm so disappointed that you will be there live. I thought I'd be to.
I know. Maybe at Newt's we'll be able to actually meet in the flesh again.
Okay.
Albeit because I am also attending Convocation this year in Detroit in February.
Okay.
A flight to an additional trip to Florida just was not in the cards.
Okay.
But I will most definitely be tuning in to your session.
Great.
Via Excel events, since
awesome.
For those of y'all listening in, one of the things that StaarCon does really, really well is have a virtual platform and an in-person platform. And I personally have been really grateful that they have kept up the virtual platform regardless, because it means that people like me who cannot travel for whatever reasons can still attend. And so when is your talk on at StaarCon?
It's Saturday, I believe it's the 21st. I believe it's Saturday. I'm so messed up with my dates. But I know it's a Saturday. I know it's Saturday at 5. So
there you go. 5:00 Eastern.
Right.
So with the numerology in your class, what are some of the other numbers that will be coming up? I'm curious because now I want to go through your oracle deck and pull out those numbers and see how they correlate.
Right. So I'll be doing from numbers 1 to 9, and then
Mhm.
doing 3 master numbers, time permitting, because we have, I believe, 45 minutes. So I'm gonna be Mickey Mouse on speed. Speedy Gonzalez, try to get in as much stuff as possible. So I will do my best.
And anything that is not, anything that you're not able to get to, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, I have a website. It's www.gitarash.com. And they could just shoot me an email and have any questions. I'll be very happy to answer or clarify.
Awesome. So you said that you would be going through the numbers 1 through 9.
But Kate, here is a trick.
Uh-huh.
Which, since you talked about the trickster, I'm going to call it the trick. Here's the trick.
I love it.
Compound numbers are reduced to single digits. So
Yeah.
it'll be a mix of compound and single digits. Okay.
So if we think about them,
That will be there.
so with 1,
One will be there.
with you for the oracle, you chose power. And
Right.
if I am remembering correctly, this is Arjuna's bow.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah.
So what does the number 1 in Arjuna's bow, like how do those tie together for you?
So number 1 is the most powerful number of all. In the sense, it's materially powerful. Number 1 is the creator of new beginnings, as in the Ace of Wands. Raise. It's the start, you see the spark. And that is what gets you somewhere, gets you success and achievement, right? So in the Oracle deck, that is Arjuna's bow that propels the team to success. He uses the bow in the war. And nobody can use it except him.
And so remembering that part of the reason why the war began was over that game of dice. There's
Right.
part of me that also wonders why then were the dice not number 1? Because the fate could have gone either way. And I actually can't remember. Are the dice one of the cards?
No, they're not. But in 33, you see the dice. The trickster, he has the dice, right?
Oh, yes, of course he
right,
does.
right.
Of course he does.
So yeah,
So that's where
that, yeah, that's the magic of the dice. Because again, it's not just an ordinary dice, it's a magical dice. Dice is made from the ashes and bones of the trickster's father. And he tricks the dice, and so the dice does whatever he's bid to, whatever he's commanded to do. That's how they win the game of dice every time.
And so that is different than the power that is inherent in
Right.
the whole thing,
Right.
because it's so bound to one person.
Right, because the one is a positive one. Dice, being that it's in the hands of the trickster, goes the other way. It's a win. They're both a win-win situation. One is done in a righteous way, and one is done in the wrong way.
That makes a lot of sense. So number 2, invincible.
Right. So
how does the number 2 tie in?
So number 2 is the most intuitive number, and equally powerful like the 1. So you have Arjuna, the character in the number 2 deck, the card, and he has his bow, which is number 1. So when you put 1 and 2, you become invincible, undefeatable. That is the energy of the 1 and 2. Because if you split 2 up, there's a one, right? There's one and one, a single one, and one becomes two.
Hmm. And then building upon that to 3.
Right. So three is a number of, it's a very playful number, artistic number. So she represents dance and having fun on a literal level. And on the deeper level, the number 3 is a very outer box thinker. They're very good at coming up with solutions. That are you a number 3?
Oh, that's a good question. So hold on a minute. Doing math off the top of my head is not my strong skill, but I have a little tool. So hold on. I am a nope, I am a 4.
Okay, but you probably have a number 3 somewhere. We have different ways of computing numbers, and so we have different numbers. And depending on what aspect you're looking at, the number works for that way.
So the way I was computing was adding all of the numbers of my birth date.
Okay, together. So that's your life path number.
Yes.
That would point to another meaning. And, you know, every number has a meaning. Depends on what meaning you're looking for. And so you may have a number 3 in another one, a destiny number or birth number or something. And number 3 is all about finding solutions when other numbers can. So it's a very out of box way of thinking, you know, something very abstract, something that is not in your face, something you go dig deep outside the stratosphere to find the answer. And that's what she represents, number 3.
Love that. When I think of number 3s, I think of them as being one of the first stable number that you have,
because they have 3 legs.
3 legs, the 3 points of a triangle, the triangle that are thought of on the bottom of the feet.
Right.
Yeah. 4.
Are we going to go through all the numbers?
Oh, I don't know. I was a little curious, but we certainly don't have to, especially if that's what you're going to be doing at StaarCon.
I am.
Great. Well, then that is all of the teaser that they get. Anybody else has to go to StaarCon. So yes. So thinking, going back to the text for a minute, I asked this question, but I don't actually remember your answer. If we tangented before you had a chance to answer, are there texts about the Mahabharata that you recommend people read before, not necessarily before, but in tandem to learning your deck if they want to dive deeper?
So there's a more detailed version of the Bhagavad Gita, and that contains, that's just wisdom in a very concentrated fashion. That would help to understand the larger macrocosm of the story, because it's just a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, but it covers everything about existence.
It really does. There was, I notated one part in here because there is a writing in Druidry, which I had meant to try and look up before this conversation, and I did not have a chance to, but I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so similar, because in the in Druidry, have this thing of like, I am the bird on the wind, I am the wind of the breath, and it was
Right.
and I swear I marked it.
Yeah, and Krishna says, I am the Miru, and I am the wind, and I am the hill on the mountaintop, and everything.
Yes.
Right,
And
right.
I was like, they're so kith of
There are parallels. There are parallels between different cultures and different philosophies. And I think that's so interesting. It just ties mankind together.
completely. Is there a translation of the Bhagavad
The
Gita?
Bhagavad Gita, yeah, there is. There's so many.
I know.
One by Ishwaran. I think that's concise. And so it's easy for someone to get it in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
It is quite deep. It's quite serious. It's quite deep. And you really have to reread it several hundred times to understand, to really grasp the meaning. So I always tell people, read something simple. And if you can grasp that, then go and take baby steps, rather than start with something that overwhelms you and you just give it up. Because this is deep stuff.
Yeah, it is. When did you first read the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata?
I actually read it when I was about 11 or 12, but I didn't understand anything. I really didn't. I really did.
I feel that.
I would explain it to everybody as two guys going for a ride in a chariot. People said,
Hey, I mean, you're not wrong.
Said, I'm reading a story about two guys going for a ride in a chariot. That was my understanding. I reread it several times after, and I think I could still get, every time I read, there's something new to be learned. So
do you read different translations, or do you go back to the same translation? Like, I remember when I was studying German in school, and I found at a thrift store a copy of Goethe's poetry, and it had the English on one side and the original German on the other. And I read it and I was like, I don't think this is right. And I took it to my German teacher after school one day, and I was like, so I bought this thinking it would be good and interesting, but I don't think it is. And she and I had a fantastic conversation and really good laugh about how horrible that particular translation was, not because it was inaccurate, but because the translation was very much like exact word for word. And because it was poetry, it didn't have any of the like poetical essence there. And my sense, only knowing English and like my knowledge of Hindi and Sanskrit like come from yoga practice, so like super tiny. And actually I don't even know what language this was originally written in.
It was written in Sanskrit, and unfortunately there's not many speakers of Sanskrit, which is quite a tragedy, because sometimes, like we mentioned in the German translation, things cannot be translated equivocally, and you're missing some of the essence of it, which is what happens. And I think in Germany, they have two chairs for Sanskrit in the German Berlin University. They're really trying to promote Sanskrit, which I think is fantastic, because there are thousands and thousands of old texts that are full of wisdom that have never been translated into English.
Wow.
So I guess people who go to these schools in German, those are the only Sanskrit like you can get degrees from. I suppose they are going to be tackling these books. I hope so.
That's fascinating. That did I hear you correctly in that there are universities in German that are studying Sanskrit?
In Berlin, to be precise, they have two chairs, they have two departments completely Sanskrit.
Wow. that that was
which the original country, the birthplace of Sanskrit, does not have. We
huh,
don't have that in India, which is mind-boggling.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
a lot of, in India, there are a lot of German schools. I mean, they have Maximilian Bhavans up to the kazoo to teach German, but there's no emphasis on learning Sanskrit. There's nothing, there's no encouragement. So I hope that the German schools have more teachers and they propagate this so we can learn from some of the texts that are so ancient.
wow. I I am assimilating and digesting
Mind-boggling.
so much new information in that.
Yeah.
How, why do you think why do you think that is? If you can even like ponder a
I would think
hypothesis.
that probably the globalization. I mean, they're teaching. When I went to school in India, there was no Spanish. We had French and German, but no Spanish.
Hmm.
No, they're teaching Spanish. So I think the focus is more on like the other languages and not the mother language, which
Hmm.
is the oldest language known to me.
Hmm.
Not much emphasis on the oldest language, more on the newer languages, and even French, I believe, has taken a back seat. And it's all about Spanish. So, Spanish.
So is there like I know in Ireland there's been a strong push that started when I was a teenager, and I only heard about it because one of my school one of the story of how Aoife and I met is a very long one that if you want to hear, I can share another time. But she's from Carrigaline, County Cork originally, and when she and I met, she was 13 and I was 11. And one of the things that she complained about so much when we were having our like tween teen sleepovers was the fact that she had to learn Irish. She had to learn Gweilga in school, and she hated it. And so I don't, like take all of that with a grain of salt from the memory of an 11-year-old. But is there any sort of nation-wide desire to have Sanskrit learned, or have it in classes more? Or
I don't think there is, and that is the misfortune, because like I said, there's thousands of texts waiting to be translated, and especially in astrology, which I don't know if you know, I'm very big on astrology, and a lot of the astrology texts were written by the rishis and munis from centuries ago on palm leaves in Sanskrit. We don't have that knowledge and information, and it would be such a plus, tremendous boon for us to be able to access that sacred knowledge.
are you planning on learning Sanskrit so that you can
Yeah.
read these texts?
Unfortunately, I don't know Sanskrit, so it was offered to us in school as a very laid back kind of a language, like a third or fourth language. So very short term, very superficial, nothing of a deeper nature that we would study, bigger texts or anything. So
Fascinating. Fascinating. So especially hearing how much cross-cultural pollination and interesting swirls of language learning are are happening already. Like one of the things that people talk a lot right now, especially about appropriation, which is super good and important conversations to have. And the pagan and New Age communities have very accurately been criticized over the years of appropriating portions of Indian culture and the Hindu pantheon. Do you have any recommendations or like do's and don'ts on how people with different ethnobiographies can use the Mahabharata oracle well and respectfully?
I've noticed in most of the newer tarot and oracle decks, they've been using it quite often, and I have no problem with that, but I think there should be an understanding of what these gods stand for.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Lakshmi, Saraswati. You have to know that they are seats of learning, education, music, arts. And these are things that you respect. It's knowledge. And you can't just put some frivolous figure on the cover and pass them off as someone who's a seat of knowledge and learning. Or, for example, even someone like Ganesh or, Shiva or anybody to just distort the image.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's just an image, but for people who don't know, it might take them the wrong way, might lead them in another way.
Mm-hmm.
So rather that they understand before they use it.
Mm-hmm.
Only use it if they think they need to, and use it appropriately to represent and not desecrate what these figures are symbols of.
Yeah.
Gods are symbols of.
Well, and also like each one of these cards has so much more to it, and I feel like your 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 companion book does a great job of distilling down, but there were definitely a few things in there that I was like, that's fascinating. I wonder what else is going to come up. And when I got to those parts of the story, I was like, oh, that makes so much more sense. And I am so glad that I personally, I use your deck for myself, and I have shared it on Card of the Week a few
Oh,
times.
wonderful. Yeah. Thank
It
you
is
for that.
oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. But it is not a deck that I would pull out when I'm like reading for clients at all, because
Mhm.
I know that I don't grok all of the layers of nuance like at all. I mean, her story of why she chose to do what she did with her children, and the contracts that were made, like that why is so layered. And I'm being slightly intentionally vague, hoping that y'all will go out and be inspired to either purchase your own Mahabharata oracle or get a copy of the book out from the library and read yourselves. But like, I can see how easy it would be to misrepresent some of
Mhm.
these gods if by someone who just literally didn't know and didn't do the research.
Exactly. So the card that you just showed, she's a spiritual god. She is she's actually a goddess. She's
Mhm.
not a human being. And so someone who just might like her name or her face or whatever, they might just use it very lightly. But she represents something far deeper and greater than just the face that she is, because she fulfills many purposes for generations.
Mhm.
She actually forms the basis of another big story that comes in. So there are many by stories with this main story. The stories of the 8 Vasus, the children that she drowns,
Uh-huh.
that goes somewhere else. That is before time. And it's mind-boggling the generations that are involved in this story. Each one has their own little nook and cranny and bylane and forms their own chapter and book.
Mm. So obviously there is another book for me to add to my pile. What is the
All the
what is
stuff
her
you will
example?
find in any text because they all kind of interweave. You'll find
Okay.
a bit of this and a bit of that, and then you'll find this in like some of the free stories, and like I mentioned, the Brihat Samhita and the Bhagavatam and those type of stories, and you'll find them. They are available online. Any story will mention this, and because it also deals with animals, people can understand why the cow is sacred, you know. And
That
so
is true. Would you
these
like
are
to
the
share?
stories that are in the by stories of the larger story.
Would you care to share why the cow is sacred, since you brought it up?
in a very macrocosm way, in a very microcosm way, I should say that, because it's a very long story. We'll be here all night, and to put it in a nutshell,
That's fair, and
um,
I'm sure you
the
still have some packing for StaarCon to do. So,
the microcosm or the short version of the story is that now this might not make sense because I'm chopping it. It's going to sound choppy, but the cow is the very last form before you are never reincarnated.
mhm.
So the last form you come in is the cow.
Mm.
So you never want to kill the cow because then you are disturbing the fate of that cow.
Mm.
And there's many other smaller reasons, like the cow is back when the race began, the Aryan race. I know it sounds funny because you think of Aryans as blonde hair and blue eyes, but my ancestors were Aryans too.
Mm.
When they came over, there was nothing. There was no trees, no vegetation, nothing to eat. But there was dairy, there were cows, and the cows, they depended on dairy products to survive. And so that was another reason why it's the mother that nourishes you and feeds you. So the cow is considered sacred.
Mm.
It's
That
funny because the cow is like royalty in India.
yeah.
Could do anything they want to get away with. So if people wonder why they're on the beaches,
That's why.
that's what.
That's why. So what are you working on now? You have
Well,
your StaarCon coming up, but you also happen to send me a lovely little teaser image about an upcoming book that I would love to
yeah, I'm
hear
so
more about.
excited. Yeah, I'm so excited. It will be released within the next month. It's all about the dream world, and it's not just a dream interpretation book. It's not a dictionary where you go and find out what your dreams mean, although there is a very comprehensive chapter on how to interpret your dreams. But this includes a lot of fun incidents from my own life, my own
Mm.
experiences, as well as a lot of hints on how to induce dreaming to secure things in life, to create your reality.
So is it,
Life examples.
I love that. Is it similar to lucid dreaming?
There is a chapter on lucid dreaming, and yes, you could say there's a parallel there in that you do induce those things, but this is more of a materialistic way. And because people are always asking me, how do I find a job? How do I find that right man? How to get right relationship? And so this is for people who are wanting to achieve material dreams, as people who want to explore the astral world for spiritual purposes. So it hits all the bases in that, whether you want to achieve material happiness, spiritual progress, or even just exploring out of body experiences, near-death experience, and so on. There's a lot of stuff about that. And of course, I also have my favorite two subjects in it as well, astrology and palmistry and numerology. They're all tied in. A little bit of everything. It's a smorgasbord, and it's again like my oracle deck, unlike any other dream book, because it has many facets that have been put together, and it has a lot of images, has a lot of pictures, which I'm very excited about. It includes some artwork, and it includes some diagrams and so on that would be very helpful for people to read the text and then understand with the help of diagrams.
And so the artwork involved is some of it your own, like that beautiful background of lavender fields that you painted?
A little bit, and also a little bit of my sister's artwork.
Oh,
She's also an artist, and her artwork and her style are so very different from mine that I've combined hers and mine together. Yeah.
Have you collaborated with your sister before?
No, never. Although she had my artwork on her book. She's also an author. She's done 5 books so far. And she had one of my pieces on the cover of her book. And so it was time for me to to share the love and reciprocate. So I've had some effort too. Yeah. And it's a book that will appeal to everyone because there's something in it for everyone.
I am already curious to see how palmistry weaves in with dream work, because I know a small amount about palmistry, and I have done some lucid dreaming and some astral travel and things of that nature, but I can honestly say I have not thought about how those would weave together, and my interest is quite piqued.
Right. That you will love that chapter. I think I'll keep rereading that chapter. I can already see you do that.
I am definitely somebody who likes to read and likes to reread. Although I will say that one of the things that I found fascinating getting ready to chat with you is I have read some things over the years about how our social media intake rewires our brains in certain ways, and our attention spans are different, and so on and so forth. And past Kate would have absolutely been able to finish this in time for our conversation without any challenges whatsoever. And I'm like, interesting. I'm going to have to take a little stronger look at my social media habits, and like, I personally feel like I actually have some like good boundaries and things around such. But yeah, like, self-note, fascinating. I am not seeing any questions in the chat right now. In our last few minutes together, Gita, is there anything else that you would like to share or talk about? Anything that I didn't lift up of yours that you would like to?
I think you touched on everything. I think it was quite a very delightful chat. We went over many things and we went over your experiences, which is so interesting to me. And I would really encourage everybody who will pick up the story and has any questions to reach out, because like you did, you have, your reaction. I love to know the reactions of people, what they think. And because it's so different, it's something that is so different to mainstream. I would, and actually, I should say that it's not that different to mainstream anymore, because people like James, what's the guy who did Avatar, the producer,
Cameron.
James Cameron. People like James Cameron are lifting things off of that to bring it to mainstream. I don't know if you know that, but the word Avatar is taken from this story because
I did not know that. I did
Right.
watch. I did watch the movie, and I did notice that I was pretty sure I heard the word Amrita used in it in a way that made me go, I don't think that is quite a respectful use of that word, and I'm the wrong person to say something about it because I don't know anywhere near enough. But
so yeah, I mean, he's candidly confessed that he was inspired by the Mahabharata to create the Avatar. A lot of people may not be aware that it is a Sanskrit word, and it doesn't mean just another selfie or a funny selfie of yourself, although literally translated, it's another form of your own self. And it comes up with Krishna again. Has many avatars. The avatar of Vishnu, the creator. So, I think people like James Cameron are bringing it to mainstream in a large way, in a small way, and a large way. Small way because there's no real explanation of what it is, but in a large way because it's so worldwide. Everybody is seeing it, loving it, appreciating it. So they come to learn the word Avatar.
And then once they have done learning, once they are complete learning the word Avatar, they can pick up the Mahabharata and dive even deeper.
Exactly.
Gita, thank you so much for chatting.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be with you, Kate. And I look forward to being with you whenever the universe deems us to.
Indeed. And until then, I will see you virtually at StaarCon and
Absolutely.
maybe in person at Northwest Tarot Symposium. And when I click an end to the live, our Zoom room will also go dark. And so,
okay. Thanks so much.
So much for your time today.
Thank you.
Safe travels to Florida.
Thank you.
Bye.